on. There we go. I have audio. You have audio. I think things are working. Hello, everyone.
Hello there.
Look, the chat works today. Holy shit. I'm impressed. Thank you, YouTube. Thank you, Streamlabs. Thank you, everybody, for working with me for once. But, welcome, I
It'll,
Hail the
fi-
Whale. We love you,
it'll
Reaper.
it'll it'll mess up soon enough.
Oh, please don't curse me. Please, please.
Hello, Reaper. How are you?
And hello later to all the unfortunate people watching this show. We're going to open your mind with a really old drill bit. It's a little rough, kind of jagged. You
In,
might not
in
enjoy this.
well, first of all, he wants us to amaze him. Reaper wants us to amaze him, and he's heard good things about it. So I'm not sure who's lying out there, but
Um, I'm
um,
I'm sitting in a chair. I'm not lying down, so we'll be okay. Um, we initiated a new rule today, and I hope it's going to help so that we don't pre-converse about the show. What we're going to do is we're going to come up with a topic. We're going to do a little mild looking, and then we're just going to talk about it.
pre-converse. Yeah, we don't want to pre-converse all over the place and be left empty without anything to give to you guys out there in chat land and YouTube land and Google
That's right.
land.
We want to converse all over our chat, not each other.
Yes, the verbal diarrhea goes one direction.
The dilemma comes in when we get in like 10 or 15 minutes into a show and all of a sudden we're going, well, remember what we were saying before we started? And it's like, oh, it would have been better if we got what we were saying before we started. So we talked about everything but today's show, but today's show is interesting. And I can say I have maybe 3 hours worth of exposure to this topic.
So you've never even heard the words Agenda 21 until I brought it up to you?
Nothing where I've ever thought to think about it. If I've heard it, it's heard in passing, and things I've heard weren't connected together like a couple of the videos I've seen, which a couple of them give you that doomsday feeling, and a couple of segments of these videos give you that feeling like, what a fucking
Give me
moron.
that doomsday feeling. Whoa, whoa, whoa,
I got
doomsday
that
feeling.
doomsday feeling. We've got that
Yes.
doomsday feeling. Now we're all gone,
Yeah, that's for sure. So,
gone.
so yeah, so the
For all of
topic
your
today.
entertainment, I have been mildly drinking. I'm trying to find just that right level to provide entertainment and comfort without going overboard.
Try mouthwash.
It just doesn't have the same feeling as a screwdriver going through my lower
Right.
bollocks, whatever it's called, that thing. Article.
Bollocks are testicles, by the way.
Oh, are they? Well,
Yes,
stomach.
they are. Yeah.
Um, Agenda 21. Now, the first thing I saw. Let's start with the sweeping item I want to put under the carpet. As a semi-poor person, I remember in few years ago melting snow down in a pot on a kerosene heater because I needed water and it was
How
cold
many
out.
years ago was that?
2, 3, not
Sure
this
was.
last winter, but a couple winters ago.
So it could have been even 4 or 5.
2, maybe 3.
Okay.
I'm not quite out of poorness. I could
Okay.
still use whatever funds I can get, which is why I'm sorry for missing yesterday's show for anybody that cares, but I gotta work. I gotta earn a buck or two where I need and keep my shit rolling. Everybody knows what that's like.
Absolutely. Gotta
So
gotta strike when the iron's hot.
so not this last winter because I was doing okay, but the winter before and no, mostly the winter before, I suffered from frozen pipes. So what I would do was go outside and get snow and melt it down in a pot.
Right.
And I would take the water and pour it over the main water line where it came out of the ground. And if you did that just right and hit it with a rubber mallet once or twice, you break through the ice loose and you get water
So
back.
you had no problem with it. It didn't just evaporate or disappear or
Now,
do strange things.
I do notice something. I
Oh, you
will
did?
note something about the snow that I have noticed has changed. And I live in the northeastern United States. And the snow used to come down really heavy and really wet. And when you'd shovel a snowbank, you could dig into that bank and dig a tunnel through it. And the snow that I get literally in the same house I grew up as a kid. This winter, we, one, got nowhere near the amount of snow we used to get in a regular winter when I was a kid. And two, it didn't pack quite like it used to. Like, there
So
was
it's
no way if
dry
I'd have gotten
powder.
that amount of snow together that I could have built a tunnel in it. And yeah, it's a lot more dry, powdery, fluffy, almost packing your tires, make it slick kind of snow.
Right, right. But you may want to ask what snow has to do with Agenda
What
21.
what does snow have to do with it? Well, the first video Data shows me, and I try to watch some of his videos through because I get that feeling like, is this stupidity or what is this? So the first thing was the snow, and the guy tried to melt it, and there was no moisture. So some snow I can see little to no moisture, and a little bit of skepticism, a lot of skepticism, I should say, to what's going
Well,
on.
there's a lot of air in snow too.
Yeah, but snow is a little different than it used to be, and it's a lot colder lately during snowstorms, and the snow seems to come down more as ice. Welcome, Ryder.
Hello, Ryder.
Moving on, though, apparently the second video gave me a bit more enlightenment, and I'm not sure what I watched was the second video. I did a quick search, I looked for something that looked relevant, and I watched it. It was long. I set it on play and went, okay, I remember some of that from the Bush era and the early Obama era, and
So, what was it about?
I'm trying to recall. My mind is full of stuff right now.
Well, let me ask you this: did it show anything about the Georgia Guidestones?
I have not seen anything about the Georgia Guidestones. What keeps catching me, and I'm looking for the term that keeps getting used for population. There was one about population relocation. And
Right.
I know this is going to be difficult for you, but this is what my mind centered in on. And it was the population rescaling, or what was it? I'm trying to think of what the word that's being used for this topic is.
Depopulation.
It's depopulation, but there was a word that they were using for the scheduled systematic depopulation. Boy, I wish I could think of what it was. I have so many searches open. Let me see if I still have it on my phone.
Ryder, the topic of this show this evening is Agenda 21. What the UN plans to do to the world to make the human population survive and the earth survive at the same time. And basically, they came up with a huge report, and they want to make poorer countries be able to sustain themselves without destroying the planet. They want larger companies to figure out a way to have an economy that doesn't just use, consume, and throw away. And a lot of people are using the Agenda 21 to talk about relocation of cities and population centers and relocation of people outside of country areas, and the adjusting of vitamins and food, and You're not allowed to collect rainwater, and you're
Well,
not
I will
allowed
get
to.
to the vitamins and food and medicines and stuff here in a minute. I cannot find the name of the word. It was used in the news and it was used a lot in the
Well, I
second
mean,
video I
you
watched,
know,
and
you
it was
know, it's
about, to plainly put it, it was about the systematic eradication of a percentage of the human race in order to allow what's left to
sustainability.
survive. It
Sustainability.
not sustainability. It was a weird, maybe it was a two-word phrase that was used over and over again about how we need to manage the population. It was population something.
Control. No.
Not redactment or something. It was a weird.
Production. Control.
I will look for it.
Relocation. Reallocation.
It was a word to replace depopulation,
Right.
and it's it seems appropriate. Don't get me wrong. Maybe I am a little bit sociopathic. I think I'm using the right word here, where I can agree to a point, and it has occurred in my mind in several scenarios and situations that overpopulation of the world leads me to believe, and
Yeah,
in
but
my mind, it leads me to believe that we need a catastrophic war.
I
But
thought
I've rethought that.
I thought the way you did. When I was your age, and the thing is now though, I don't even know if that's the case. In other words, there's a lot of land out there that isn't populated at all. I mean, you people say that this Earth has a maximum supporting capacity. I'm not sure if we've gotten anywhere near that maximum supporting capacity. And frankly, at the same time, the Earth tends to control that. In other words, if we ever did get to a maximum supporting capacity, then there wouldn't be enough food. And what would happen? Our population would reduce naturally. So I'm not sure a bunch of elitists, in New York sitting around a huge table have to plan this out because the other thing is we tend to think that we're in control of a lot of things, but in actuality we're not. We may make all the plans in the world, but we're not in control. You
No.
know,
And an attempt to control something beyond our knowledge and
means or
capability
means
is
right,
going to
exactly.
lead to a mistake. And
Right.
mistakes will be made, which maybe is the end goal, that just the right mistake be made that results in a catastrophe.
Well, that's the
And they
thing.
hope they fall on the right side of the
A
catastrophe.
lot of people think that this is all just a big smoke screen anyways. They basically want a one world government where the elites and the bankers and the big money and the big energy are in charge. They don't want any governments anymore. They don't want any voting anymore. They want all the one world government. They're in control. And they know that if there's 9 billion people or 10 billion people and there are only a million, that they can't control us. So, of course, they want to reduce the population down to a nice, tidy 500 million, which to me would make the entire world seem empty. I mean, 500 million people, that is hugely vacant. A lot of land, a lot of big cities practically empty.
Yeah,
So,
but if you think about some of the plans of Agenda 21, yeah, they would leave a lot of areas barren, but the point of Agenda 21 was to clear some of the unused and large open land that could grow massive amounts of crops or massive amounts of trees to overproduce oxygen for the atmosphere. They were going to clear that land and make it unusable by humans, declare it uninhabitable and make it so people cannot go in those zones.
Right.
And then they would be unpopulable, forcing people in those remote areas into the cities to fill in some of the city gaps. So you really wouldn't see it in most places. And don't get me wrong, it would work with the robotics that are coming out. We could have robots picking fields and running most jobs. So you push people into the cities, you give them more room to spread out, you take down all of the public housing, because why do you need
Yeah,
it
but why
anymore?
would you need all? Yeah, but why would you need any of that? Because if there's so little population, hell, people could probably grow what they need locally.
Yeah. Yeah, if
I mean,
well, except in
again,
large
it's
cities.
all.
If
I
you
think
push
it's
everybody
all.
to the large cities, though, you have to have growing areas.
I think it's all a big smokescreen. I think it's basically just again a power grab. I think this planet. I think it's egotistical for us to think that we can control anything on this planet. When this planet is sick of us, like Carlin said, it'll shake us off like a bad case of the fleas, and it'll choose something else to replace us. Um, but yeah, this is a big plan. Agenda 21. What are they doing? Are they making us sick? Are they controlling the weather? Are they
Now,
controlling earthquakes? Are they
here's one
using
that got
these
me.
tools?
Here's one that kind of started to make me follow along a little bit. Now, some things throw me off because the dots just don't connect quite so easily, and things need to make some sense in my head for me to even care to go further. Okay?
Okay.
It went on to say that some of the medicines that we started to get, I'm trying to think. I think I've had too much to drink, but that's okay. Some of the medicines that we were given that were originally approved by the FDA were causing problems and illnesses among children.
Sure.
And so we canceled the ability to be able to release those here, but they got permission to take them over and give them to children in other
Sure.
countries that we were quote unquote helping.
Makes me
Now,
ill.
there are pictures of children that receive some of these medicines that you can clearly see before and after differences in the way the muscles in their face and the way they were perceiving information at the time drastically changed. These were parents taking pictures of a newborn baby versus one after they went and got their, immunizations and shots right after they're born, and then they come back and they're different. Or on the 6 month visit, after plenty of pictures have been taken, all of a sudden they get shots, and 2 days later their eyes start to roll up into the side just a little bit, and they don't respond as well, and they start acting ill.
Yeah, I mean,
Coincidental.
for the brief overview of vaccinations. I mean, I was vaccinated when I was a kid, but I think back then it was a different time and a
No,
different place.
it went over
Um,
that. Back then, our vaccinations when we were kids, to be old, this is where it pays off to be older. Our vaccinations were farther and fewer between. They
yeah,
gave us a couple, and they were stretched out to make sure that we were getting what we needed appropriately. And
right.
now
I
I
mean,
have
I may
kids,
have
they
gotten
are
a few.
way over vaccinated for everything.
If you ever have to leave the country, you're also given a few of extra vaccinations that you wouldn't normally get. But I always thought, in a brief the overview of the vaccine subject, um, it was the additives in the vaccines, the stuff that supposedly was put in to keep the shelf life longer, stuff that was based with heavy metals like mercury.
Right, and I was
Um,
getting there that a lot of them had trace amounts of not only mercury but other things that we find and are told to have in our everyday contents. And as I get there, I'm reminded of other conspiracies that I've heard. And we all know we've heard at least one fluoride conspiracy.
oh yeah, well I'm a definite believer that fluoride is definitely a waste product, and we've been sold a bill of goods. I drink a ton of water and it's always purified, but back in the day before, I drank plenty of water also, and I've got cavities. I mean, and I never ate like sugar like crazy or whatnot, so I don't see
I know.
how the fluoride is protecting my teeth. And hell, if you even read a toothpaste tube, it says contact poison control if anybody swallows this stuff.
All
It
right,
says it
so
right on the damn tube.
I heard, you know, you're right, and that's exactly where I was headed with this when I brought up the fluoride. As I went through this second video, and the second video was very long and extensive and zeroed in on a few topics, and fluoride was one of them. And one of the doctors, and I kind of remember these things sort of touching the news lightly in the late '80s and early '90s. Um, there's enough fluoride in toothpaste to be, if we take the right dosage of toothpaste. So the dosage you're supposed to have is the size of a pea. But in any
Right.
commercial and, at the dentist and everything,
They
they
put a
put
big long string, a
that
curly
long
key
string
string.
is
Right.
3 to 4 times the amount. If you were to
Oh,
intake
even
that,
more. Yeah.
that's technically just before the poison level. So
And that's,
brushing your teeth three
again, you're
times a
not
day
supposed
is
to
healthy.
swallow.
Right, don't
Well,
swallow.
and well,
Well,
now
don't
think
swallow
about
your
this too.
toothpaste. Don't give everybody the wrong idea. Don't swallow
But
your toothpaste. You can
right now,
swallow some other things.
well, and the argument too is, okay, so you have X amount of fluoride in the toothpaste that you're not supposed to swallow, but if it's in your mouth, some of it's got to go down. Then you're drinking water with fluoride in it. Then you're eating stuff that has water put in it. So there's more. So, I mean, the whole point of a drug or a vitamin or whatever a doctor is supposed to give a patient, you're supposed to have control over the amount. But if you throw it into the water supply, how the hell is anybody supposed to know if one person is drinking a gallon or two of water a day and one person is having a cup? How the hell can you keep track of that? I mean, and the argument too is, well, it's good for the teeth. Well, if it's so damn good for the teeth, why don't we throw multivitamins in the water too? Why don't we throw aspirin in the water to help people's heart conditions out? I
Have you ever
mean,
played the card game bullshit? Bullshit.
no,
You've never played the card game bullshit where
never
you
played the
set
card game
down.
bullshit.
If I remember correctly, it's a drinking game, obviously.
Okay.
Everybody gets a hand of like 6 cards or 9 cards or whatever it is. You get a large set of cards, and
Welcome back, Ryder.
Yep, welcome back. Sorry if I'm not totally paying attention to the chat. You take 2 cards. Let's say you have a pair of sixes.
Right,
You put them face down on the table and go 2 6s.
right. And then
And
somebody says bullshit or not.
somebody says bullshit, or the next person goes. Well, if somebody
Right.
has 3 6s in their hand and calls bullshit, the person who put down the hand has to take a drink. If they're wrong, the person who yells bullshit was wrong. The person who says bullshit has to take a drink.
Okay.
And every time I think of these scenarios, I always have to try to stop and decide, do I call bullshit? It's always that
Well,
risk because it's a 50-50 chance that you're calling bullshit on something that could be true. or you're calling bullshit on something that you could be completely wrong and off your rocker. But
Well,
we all know
that's the
fluoride is a chemical. We all know it's a drug. And you're very right. You don't know how much somebody's getting.
well.
But the
Actually,
other
we
part
don't.
is,
We
don't you
don't.
want
No, no,
to
no.
assure that they get, no matter how much they're getting, dependent on the person? The other thing is, you want to make sure they get a regular and consistent supply of
Right.
whatever
Well,
drug. So
well.
you get
First of
them on
all,
a daily regimen to
first
take
of
it with
all,
meals.
listen. A doctor would never prescribe a drug to somebody without informed consent. And the whole point about putting fluoride in water, nobody is giving informed consent. Nobody's getting information on it, and nobody's giving consent to have it. You see what I'm saying?
No, well, hold on. You, let's put it this way. I don't drink the water at my house here. It's tap water. It's from the town. Okay? I don't drink it. I had well water. When I had the right filtration system running, I had no problem drinking that. It
Do
it was
you
good
okay?
water.
When you mentioned also, you had just mentioned that we know that fluoride is a drug, and we know fluoride. Did you know that the fluoride that they put in water systems is
Comes from the
not
ground. It's a byproduct. It's
it is
literally a hazardous byproduct that they put
right.
into
It
the
is
water to
not. It is
distribute.
not. It is not a medical grade drug or pill or powder. This is a derivative. It's an acid derivative, and the crazy thing is, it's a toxic waste that is produced by the what the hell is it called? The bauxite mines. This is the shit that they wash out of their smokestacks.
Yep.
This is the mud and muck that 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 the EPA wouldn't allow them to put in the air, that they're now, and they have no idea. They can't even dump this stuff. It's so toxic. If it gets, in other words, in the powder form, you can put it in a bag and kind of move it around. If it gets wet, this stuff will eat through concrete.
Oh, by
There's
the
a
way,
vid.
it'll keep your teeth clean. Just don't
Yeah,
swallow
yeah.
your
Just
toothpaste.
don't swallow it. So yeah, there's the whole fluoride thing. There's the whole, not only that, but what about our food supply? Everybody seems to be getting sick. Everybody seems to be getting fat. Everybody seems to be having health issues and diabetes and heart conditions, and everybody seems to be going a little bat crazy in their mind. In other words, Alzheimer's and dementia. What the hell are they putting in the food? And we were talking just now about the Food and Drug Administration. Do you know the Food and Drug Administration isn't
Welcome,
funded as
Jonathan.
much as it should be? So the Food and Drug, you think that a food and drug guy is going out and inspecting the way they do food? No. They usually leave it up to the manufacturers to do the tests and send them the results.
Yeah. And it's
So,
weird.
I mean,
You usually expect the water that comes from your town to be clean. But stop and think back to a few years ago. Towns make financial decisions that they don't necessarily know what those decisions are doing or the outcome of the decisions they make. And think to Flint, Michigan, and lead in the water. Now think to any town, and they're being told along the way, this is how you treat your water to prevent contamination along the way, because it's an acid. But there's nothing in the homes to allow you to filter that back out of the water, because once it's in the water, that's a hard substance to filter. And if you're filtering that, you're going to be changing some expensive filters on a regular basis.
well, you've got that, and you've also got chlorine. How do we know the chlorine we drink isn't affecting us too? I
Yeah.
mean, How do we know that all the damn corn we eat and everything now has corn syrup in it as a filler, as a sweetener and a filler, so just so the food corporations can make more pennies on the dollar, and we're all getting ill. You know, there's a huge movement now where people want to farm their own food and raise their own chickens and have their own eggs, and when they do it, they're amazed at the difference in quality between what they can grow and what they can buy at the store.
Yeah, some of the processing that has been done over time is in the attempt to create less hazardous conditions. And they're going by this works and it's cost affordable and it's repeatable on a large scale and it doesn't appear to cause any damage right now. And look at canned fruits or canned vegetables or canned soup. If you consume too much canned items, there's a really high sodium content in there. You
You know,
will.
when you cut an orange in half in just in just a little bit of time, half the vitamin C evaporates out of that orange.
Yeah. I try not to
So I
leave
mean,
fruit or veggies open fresh once I've cut them.
yeah, I mean, you got to use them, or it's all lost anyways. And then cooking stuff also destroys vitamins and minerals. So, you know, we don't know after these guys flash cook and flash freeze these frozen vegetables and canned vegetables and whatnot. What do we end up getting? Yeah, they may be green beans, but we're not getting any nutrition out of them. We're all getting ill and sick, and the people that are behind all this are all making money off of it. And then you got the drug companies selling you drugs to solve all these illnesses. And where does it fucking end? And
It's
the
the
Agenda 21,
circle
what
of
people are trying to say with
life.
this Agenda 21 is that all of this is a big plan to reduce the population of the earth, and they can't wait for something drastic to happen that'll eliminate half the people or more than half the people. And right now it's a huge industry. Right now, survivalism, people storing food for, you know, months and years supply of food, people building bunkers under the ground. This is a huge industry. Right now, I think in the United States, there is like a 2 year waiting list to put a bunker underground because all the bunker companies have literally waiting lists to put stuff underground. Every you know, even and everybody who's like, you know, billionaires, they're all set up. They're ready to go. I
Yeah, I
mean,
saw some
the
of their
the
nice
wall
bunkers.
The Walmart family, they have their bunker. What's his name from Microsoft? Bill Gates, he has his bunker. You know, and then we start talking about the you know, again, you want to bring tie conspiracy theories back into this. You've got
I know, Tim.
the deep underground bases which have been built over the last 50 years. The trillions of dollars have been spent because the government knows that something major is on the horizon, and they're ready and waiting for it. And us schmucks are still buying frozen peas, you know, trying to figure out how to pay our electric bill and get health insurance at the same time.
Now, don't get me wrong. I I actually firmly believe, and if you've watched my other show, you've seen this in the questions for school that there's a lack of education for how we got to where we are. Anything that would lead to like survival techniques is absolutely missing from most places and being diluted from some others slowly. And you can find survival information and how to. But then
Tim
if
Tim
you
in
look
chat Tim in chat said that Trump is all for legalization of marijuana. He's actually all for a reduction in the federal government dealing with the marijuana and letting it up to the states to decide how and what to do with the marijuana, which is fine and great. At the same time, um, the Republican Party has decided to opt in and allow people to, or allow pharmaceutical companies to use people that are in desperately ill situations to be guinea pigs. In other words, experimental treatment that isn't even necessarily 100% to allow people to use it. So, you know, there's that. I mean, a little bit on the topic we're talking about, but yeah. So back to Agenda 21. Yes, so we talked
Well, we
about
were at
fluoride
survivalist.
and we
Hold
talked
on.
about food and oh yeah, survivalist. Go ahead.
Survivalist. Have you ever looked at, and you said you were somewhere in the southeast, Florida or something, right?
Yeah, Miami.
Okay. Have you ever looked at like your local town limits and restrictions about
Yeah,
fire
the
pits
crazy
and
thing about Miami is basically anything outside of town is alligators and swamps, and we and we have winter fires of the Everglades burning down the dry grass every year. Lightning strikes the Everglades and flames start burning up the state, but that's a natural process. But
yeah, it
no,
seems to be
there
more.
isn't much wild country down here. It's all been built up, and it's all tourist and a huge city.
Well, I have some city area, some country area, and I noticed in the town that I live in that if you ever look into the town restrictions, just search pool, search fence, search shed, search add-ons, whatever you want to search, it just seems that they try to make it difficult. Obviously, they want their buck out of something they have no real right to take another buck out of. But there's rules and restrictions and ordinances and requirements up the wazoo about half of the stuff you want to do. And if you wanted to try out or practice survival techniques or set things up in your yard just in case, some of them literally violate town ordinance, if not local, city, state,
Well,
whatever.
yeah. I mean, you've got people complaining on YouTube that they were being arrested for collecting rainwater. You've got other people pissed off because when they hooked up their solar panels, they were getting grief from the power company. Um, People are all. I mean, there are a lot of people right now that really want to go off the grid, get the hell out of Dodge. They've got a knapsack ready with a week's worth of food, and they've got a plan to escape the big city, and they've got a little cabin out in the woods somewhere, and they've got shit buried all around the cabin to to live comfortably there for a long time. There's a rumor, well, the rumor more than a rumor, because this private investigator heard this from multiple people in the know. The Navy submariners and the Navy retired. They were all told to retire in the Missouri, Arkansas area in the mountains there, because the Navy basically knows or says that in the near future, basically Florida is going to go underwater. Most of the East Coast, including Washington, Baltimore, New York, is all going to go underwater.
The whole
Um,
global
the
warming shores are
central
rising.
the well, they said this was going to be sudden. This is going to now the reason The reason you could think about that, and this is an interesting concept. Did you know that all the oceans of the world bulge at the equator because the Earth spins?
Yeah.
Did you know that that was multiple hundreds of feet?
Yeah, it can be. Yeah, that's where some of our tidal wave comes from.
Well, no,
Some
forget
of.
about tide. Now, tide's on top of that.
Tides the moon on
In other
top
words,
of the centrifugal force, right?
right, right. So we're talking about the standard sea level is a bulge at the equator. Now, if anything, gravitational, rotational changed suddenly, you could see hundreds of feet of ocean water either go up or down, depending on where you are.
Okay, now, don't mind me as I sit here and I watch you put those cards down and yell, bullshit. Because I think we could probably have the government manipulating the weather. But as for the speed of the rotation of the
Oh
planet,
no, I'm not talking about the government doing this. I'm just talking about it just happened. I mean, we always thought, have you ever heard of physics, the constants of physics, where the speed of light is always a constant, right?
yeah.
And gravity is always a constant. Well, hell, experiments just found out that there are gravitational waves.
Yeah.
So gravity is no longer a constant. So, what's to say a gravity wave doesn't come by one day and change the gravity of the Earth?
Very true. I can semi agree with that.
You have a
And however,
sudden trough and a sudden, and then it goes back to normal. But before it goes back to normal, all that water is affected and it goes somewhere.
welcome, Wild Fox. How are you doing tonight? It is a show. I think this is one of our more relaxed episodes. This is more conversational and less throwing this stuff back and forth to argue it. I feel this feels more comfortable today. Something else
So wait a
that
second. Let's go over. So Agenda 21. We talked about fluoride. We talked about food and how
and mercury.
it's
Hold
less
on,
and
we
less,
talked about
and
fluoride and mercury.
vaccines and mercury, and food is less and less nutritious, and also a lot of the people in the know are all building bunkers for some reason. There's also like condominium communities you can buy into for those bunkers and whatnot. And then you have the deep underground bunkers that are a big mystery that the government is building. And then we have the Navy telling all their retirees to move to the mountains of Arkansas and Missouri because they've got this map showing the United States basically two islands with the Mississippi 100 miles wide.
I have no idea what numbskull and data are on about. This is beyond me. This is this is beyond all of us. So
It's
imagine
a
to you.
big industry right now. Everybody is talking about the end of the world. Something's happening. Something's going on. People are buying bunkers. The religious are saying it's the end days, and the antichrist is here, and the people that aren't religious are buying up MREs in bulk because they want either a month or a year or multiple years of food because everybody's talking about the shit hitting the fan, the SHTF.
It's the end of the world as we
As we
know it.
know it,
Now,
it's the end
here's the
of the
thing.
world as we know it.
I
Yes,
feel fine. Okay,
and we
so
feel fine.
this is in
Yes.
the description now. I'm trying to find a good way to describe this show. The Numbed Wasteland is a more in depth show to cover some topics and offer something to the public they may have never heard of. some mild questioning, but more about the exposure of these things to you, the general public, and let you decide what to think. Data will dangle you with Data will dangle
I'll
you
keep
by
my
your
dangle to
toes into
myself.
the rabbit hole and pull you back with maybe enough temptation to dive in on your own free
You
will.
ramble, you ramble.
I'm
Listen, it's
trying
as
to read
simple.
and I'm doing a
It's
shit
it's
job.
it's as
Whatever
simple
the
as
material, have an open mind and enjoy.
it's
So,
as simple as
we're just
this.
letting you know this is here. Because I didn't hear about this before Thursday. You sent me a message.
Yes, I said, hey, what about a topic called Agenda 21? And
Here's a
he was
video.
like, what the hell is that? And basically, it's a plan by the United Nations. Now, it's a long plan, and you can probably download the well, actually, you can download the PDF, and it's basically talking about changing our planet to be more sustainable for a bright and healthy future. But a lot of people see it as a new world order where there are no governments, where they want to kill off most of the population so we're nice and controllable. And basically, we've been talking about all the ramifications of that because you'll hear people talk about Agenda 20. Hell, I was watching a hearing in California about land management. It was like one of the city council meetings, and all the people were pissed off, and they were all quoting Agenda 21 because the city council decided it didn't want to build on a certain area, and it wanted to make the population denser in the central part of town, which would then make life a little busier and dirtier and whatnot in the central part of town. So you'll hear this Agenda 21 over and over and over again, and people are putting a lot of what's
So
the
what we're
word?
saying is, yes, this is real, a wild fox. This is something that is actually out there. However, you have to look at it with an open mind to decide how much in which parts of this you believe, because some of it is believable. Some of
Do
it
you
lines up
remember
with real facts, and some of
six
it just
months
seems a
ago?
little odd.
6 months ago, do you remember World Day? It
What
was a
month are
big.
we in?
It was a big
December?
celebrate. It was a big music celebration all around the world, and they were talking about a new religion, a religion to replace all the religions.
Not
This
really.
was all well. This was all sponsored by the United Nations and Agenda 21.
Oh, you know what? I might vaguely remember.
Yes, they want to replace all religion. They want to replace all government with a one world government. They want the population to be smaller so they can control us. They want to poison us. They want to poison our air, poison our water, poison our food.
Hey,
They
who does
they
that sound like?
they want and
Haven't
the people that are left over, they want to dumb down just enough to be able to do their job and not ask any questions.
Who does that sound like? Maybe 70 years ago, and
70
about
years ago?
100 years ago, and then again about 200 and something years ago, and then about 400, maybe then another
You're,
600
you're gonna
years,
have
and
to
then a
you're gonna have to
thousand.
you're
Can
gonna have
can
to
we
clue
name
me
some
in.
people who had these agendas in mind? Like
Well,
maybe
maybe
Hitler. 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 Hitler.
Hitler,
I've been
yes.
drinking.
Hitler, yes, he was all about the Agenda 21. You wanted
If
to
we
take
say his name funny, does this still count as insulting? I don't know. No,
um
maybe not Agenda 21, but the same type of concept. Let's Get rid of enough people to make it hospitable and suitable for those we decide to leave behind.
Dude,
No matter who you
dude,
decide is those left behind, you still have the same premise. You have to get rid of people.
if you want to go back 100, if you want to go back to 1776, the Illuminati, that was their main goal, a one world order, no religion, no governments. I mean, people say that that's what this is all about. Even the United Nations is a big front for the elitists and the globalists.
It's easier to crash a world economy when the whole world is one economy, huh?
Well, there you go. Now you've just added another topic to the list about Agenda 21.
Oh, did we not cover
Uh,
the world economy part? Oh, shit.
no, yeah, the economic crash of the United States, the biggest, most powerful economy in the world. You crash the United States, the world goes.
What's happening right now?
Well, the Fed is printing money like it's toilet paper.
I think we
We
got a
don't
couple
even
motors out. We're going down quick. Well, we're going
we
down
don't
slow, but we better prepare for a landing.
we don't know what the hell the Fed is doing because the Fed is not the government. The Fed is above the government, and they're printing money like it's going out of style. They're making a big balloon. They're pumping money into everything, including the European banks.
And it's artificial money, which is just inflating the economy, which is just making it harder for those at the bottom and causing those that
Imagine
are
this.
farther up to be on the bottom so that it makes a wider separation between those at the top and those at the bottom and makes the
Um,
bottom a lot larger.
Imagine this. Okay, banks can give, or the Fed can give a bank money for nothing, for free, but you have to go into debt to get a loan. On top of that, you've got inflation, right? Everybody talks about inflation. The more money you print, the more things cost. I mean, it wasn't too long ago. Hell, in the 1980s, a brand new, fully loaded luxury car, a Cadillac, a Mercedes, a high end vehicle was $13,000, $14,000, $15,000. Nothing, no car. I mean, maybe a Lamborghini was 20. Okay. Now a Cadillac Escalade is $100,000 vehicle. Now that's just a small sign of inflation. Now, understand too that things have changed because back then in the 80s, we built more stuff here. So people were working. There was a better economy. It may not have been great, but there were more people building things in the United States. Today, we're buying everything from China at a far, far reduced price. So, in a way, we've kind of hidden the inflation because if we go to Walmart and buy underwear, a six pack of underwear for $5, that's made in China. That same six pack of underwear that would have been made in the United States and putting people to work may have costed $30. So we don't see it because those jobs are gone, and instead we're sending the $6 to China.
Then when it all lines up in China and everybody, if and once we become a world economy, everything that runs on that crumbles.
Well, they say the trigger mechanism is this. Right now, the United States dollar is the petrodollar. In other words, all buying and selling of oil across the world is done in dollars. Once governments stop using the dollar to exchange for oil, that's when all those dollars come back home. And when all those dollars come back home, that's when we have like the World War one German population had to have a wheelbarrow of Deutschmark to buy a loaf of bread.
I'm sorry, I don't want to get there, but I'm getting damn close. I mean, I invested. Quick rundown. Malevolent. This is not a timed show, but okay. Quick rundown. I got some money, which wasn't a whole lot in the grand scheme, and I bought a house for a lot less than it's worth. And I put a lot of money into that house. And I watched and looked at the taxes before I invested every dollar, and I intended to get some reimbursement on my investment because I was investing and trying to get a reward so I can keep investing and improving on the house because it needs some work.
Right.
But then they take that away. And then I'm trying to do this work, but the stuff I need to do the work, the price just went up again. And then I'm sending my wife to work
Oh,
because she's the one that works, and the gas goes up 70 cents in the matter of a couple of weeks. And
when you finally sell the house, you may get a lot of money. It may show an extra zero at the end of it, but all that money will buy you the same as what you initially bought the house for.
oh, you know, I don't even
I
think
hate to
about getting
depress
rid of the
you.
house. I don't even think about getting rid of the house. I
Right.
think about the fact that I got the house, it's cheaper than renting, but taxes are going to go up. Then they're going to reassess, and I made improvements, which brings the value of the house up. Well, there's other things
Right.
around here that brings the value of the house up, which is wonderful, but they keep increasing the percentage that we pay based on the value of the house, and then you increase the value of the house. Well, how can I afford to pay taxes, let alone keep the house from falling apart?
Have you ever heard of a profit and loss statement? Have you ever done one for yourself?
I should. I'm definitely in the downswing. I'm in the red.
There's a strange thing with a profit and loss statement because debts count as assets. In other words, it's like you have a house, you have a loan. Yes, you have to pay that loan off, but you own the property. So if you ever sold the property, you could pay the asset off or the debt off. And that's the asset part of it. The thing is that a lot of people today, a lot of rich people, even the people that look rich, they all live still hand to mouth. They may have leases and rentals and renting apartments and the big beautiful cars and hell, they may even rent their suits and furniture. And when it's all said and done, if they go to pay off all their debts with all their assets, they have zero. And it's funny because if you look at that guy in the Jaguar in the $1,000 rented suit, and you see that homeless guy playing a saxophone for dollars that he can beg off the people waiting at the streetlight, you're looking at two guys that basically are at the same level of financial freedom. If anything, the homeless guy probably has about a little less worries because he's not going to lose anything. He's already at the bottom, where you have the rich guy who has to come up with a paycheck every month to cover his nut.
Yeah, I suppose that's relatively true. Even the we're way off topic here, but even with everything, I got a very good deal on my house trying to make an investment. But if I can't
Exactly.
afford, I got a hell of an investment. When all is said and done, I paid less than half of the currently assessed value. But if I can't continue to afford to pay the taxes because they're going up at a much faster rate than income is, what do
Yeah,
I do?
I'll bet your taxes are nothing compared to the taxes around here. But that be that as it may.
For the tiny ass little piece of property I have in town, it
20,
is
30,
cool.
20 years ago, I had a house that was about 1,200 square feet. It was valued at about $350,000. I had bought it for $180,000, and the year I bought it outright for $180,000, it was reevaluated for $200,000, and I was actually able to get a a 70% loan to value mortgage for more than I paid for the house, and I used that money to redo the whole house. But I was there for 10 years. I did a whole lot of stuff to the house. I ended up getting into a situation where my payments were $2,000 a month, and I was not able to cover them. I had to start selling stuff to cover my payments. Now, at the
Oh,
same time, at
yeah.
the at the same time, the $250,000 house was now worth $300,000, and everybody and their mother was refinancing. This was back in the day in the 80s when everybody was refinancing like crazy and property values were going up and up and up. And my taxes that year were $6,800. Now that was again 20 years ago, or yeah, 20 years ago. So I mean, $6,800 is a hell of a lot of money if you think about it for taxes. That's rent. That's $500 a month in
The
rent
front of my
for an
property,
apartment.
the front of my property is 50 feet across. The taxes combined on this property alone are at least 2 grand a year. The school and land taxes.
Yeah, and
Okay.
if you pay them earlier, it's a little cheaper.
Well, if you pay them on time, which means, hey, we send you this bill. If you can pay us $1,000 in 30 days with no real good notice, besides you should kind of know they're coming. What you got stuck in, and thankfully I'm not stuck in this.
Right,
Before I bought this house and got into this arrangement, I spoke with a bank manager about getting a home loan. And when you get a
right,
home loan, what they do is they take your taxes on an post yearly basis and charge you for those. But you
right,
also get charged interest on top of those taxes. So when the
right.
taxes go up, your interest gets charged on those taxes. So your bank
Yes,
makes money paying your taxes on time
right.
for
And on a
you from
30
money that was collected to pay them to begin with.
and on a 30-year note, the first 10 years, the payments are mostly interest. They have you pay the interest for the note beforehand. So the end 10 years is principal payment. So it's crazy. You go in for a loan for $250,000. You're signing a piece of paper saying you're going to pay the bank by the time the 30 years up.
Almost
Something
six
like
hundred thousand dollars.
something like 700,000. I mean, it's an astronomical number. It's crazy. But yeah. Anyways,
And
back to
then they add
agenda.
taxes back in. But back to
Back
Agenda
to Agenda
21.
21. So yeah, so you've got food that's killing us, the money that's disappearing in our savings account, if we even have a savings account.
It's
We've got
fading fast.
all the people with money and all the people in power preparing for something dramatic that's happening. You have vaccines that are poisoning our kids. We have schools that are dumbing our kids down. We have colleges that are turning kids into SJWs. What else?
Later, Fox. We have weather. Oh, we did
Yes.
cover the snow.
Yeah, but
We
that
did
isn't
kind of
weather
cover the snow.
control. We're
The
talking
weather
about weather
control.
control. Yes. So the government signed a treaty that's with the rest of the world saying that we wouldn't use weather control as a weapon of war. And people are saying that we are doing that right now. We are not only controlling the weather, but we are also controlling earthquakes using HARP. And one guy was talking to the Japanese treasurer, secretary of the treasury in the Japanese government, and he asked, well, because Japan was really smart the past few years, they've been paying down their debt. So in actuality, even though the economy is very sluggish there, they're digging themselves out of the hole.
We're
So
just
then
making ourselves in one.
right. So then he asked, "Why did you give over control to the Japanese treasury, to the central banks, the world banks?" And supposedly, this Japanese treasurer, or the treasury secretary, said, "Well, we were threatened by an earthquake." In other words, they basically said, "Let us control your economy, or uh, part of Japan would sink into the ocean."
Now, you have to know, in my mind, the fact that the government has a treaty stating that they will not use something means it is at least somewhat available for them to use. Hey, by
Oh
the way,
yeah,
there's a treaty for nuclear fucking weapons. There's
dude.
a treaty for cloning. There's
If you
treaties
search
for chemical gases.
if you search a guy by the name of John Lear, John Lear is the son of the guy who invented the Lear jet. He's a UFO buff, but he is also into like the military, and planes and secret planes and all that. Anyways, he constantly goes onto the military websites and downloads page after page, and prints out page after page. And he found a page where it basically said that the United States military will control the weather by the year, or they said like by the year 2010, and they would be able to basically control everything: earthquakes, rain, drought, hurricanes, the gambit.
You know, my thought
Um,
when the weather gets weird, because you know what the weather was like as a kid, and you used to count on certain weather and patterns to happen at certain times every year. And
Seasons.
you still have things planned. Events, holidays and things are kind of planned around those weather events, and then all of a sudden you can't count on weather and climate to change on a normal regular scale. So you
The
have to
weather.
wonder. Even
Yeah, I
before I
mean,
know anything about this, anything before all this Agenda 21, I always thought if somebody learned how to control the weather and just did something stupid and it got a little out of control and they were trying to fix it, but no matter what they do, they just can't quite get it to line back up. I've
well,
always
and
had
and
that stupid thought in the back of my head for no good reason.
the funny thing too is, I mean, I heard about all this stuff years ago too, because I'm kind of a conspiracy buff, so I kind of like enjoy just listening to all. I don't necessarily believe everything I hear, but I'll give it a well thought out here. I'll listen
And
to it. I'll try
that
to
also is the
understand what they're
purpose of this
talking
show.
about.
That is
Right.
the purpose, to give it out there for everybody to hear. Whether or not we believe it, we'll go along with it. We'll talk about it. We'll give
Right.
information
I
and a
mean,
couple thoughts.
what's the point of shutting something down? Oh, I refuse. Listen, I'll listen to a flat earther if he has something interesting to say. I mean, I'll listen to him. I don't necessarily have to believe what he has to say, but I don't have to be some guy who's standing on a pulpit, calling him an asshole for believing what he believes. But that being said, where was I heading? I just lost my train of thought.
Sorry, that was my fault.
I lost my train of thought. Where the
I,
hell?
I stopped
We
drinking
were
now. I'm
talking
jumping.
about we were talking about John Lear, and we were talking about oh, now I remember. So yeah, I was I heard all this years and years ago. Now there's this website that I've been enjoying, and I watch every morning with my coffee. It's called Space Weather. It's Suspicious Observers, and he has had a channel for years and years and years on YouTube, and basically he's a citizen scientist that is really making some waves. He actually invented a a phone app that predicts earthquakes. And damn, if he isn't like 75%, 80% accurate in his little app there. So basically the whole premise is this. Of course, we all know that the Earth is a big generator because it's spinning around inside a magnetic field, and it's got a core of iron, so it generates electricity, and it also a magnetic field. At the same time, what we didn't know is that we're also magnetically and electrically locked to the sun and the other planets. And what most of the climate change scientists don't take into account is how much the sun actually controls our weather. And this is actually kind of interesting. Did you know, that for every major storm, hurricane, and I'm talking major storm, there's been over basically as far back as you want to look, there has also at that exact same moment been a solar storm where there's been an increase in solar plasma hitting our shields. So in other
Really?
words, so there is a electrical
So are we
circuit,
talking like a solar storm, or are we talking
a solar storm.
a
No, no,
flare
we're talking about an
creating a storm in the
electrical.
northern environment?
We're talking about a space weather event that matches a buildup in actual surface weather. So, in other words, we're actually saying that the weather could very well be possibly controlled by the amount of energy and electricity in our atmosphere, which in turn comes from the sun. And at the same time, this also affects earthquakes.
You
So
don't
there
think
is
we're
a
on a spinning ball?
electrical circuit that will produce an earthquake, and that's kind of where, I don't know if you've ever heard of the term earthquake lights, but a lot of times before and after an earthquake has hit, you will see like an aurora effect in the sky. This is what that is. So on the nature's end, I've seen this, and this guy now he's got a very large channel. He even has he has scientists now. You know, he started out being laughed at by a lot of the mainstream scientists, but now he's actually got a convention in his hometown every year that's sold out and has speakers of mainstream science. And he's constantly pulling up like reports and whatnot that were showing that mainstream is now actually accepting a lot of the premise that he thought of beforehand. So
I'm gonna go off on a dumb tangent just because you said this, and my mind instantly started to think something stupid, but not stupid. But here we go. So if the sun is charging or being charged by or having a charged reaction with Earth because we have a molten iron energetic core, could that mean theoretically that our universe operates on somewhat the same potential energy basis as, an
yes.
atom, like an oxygen or a hydrogen atom?
Oh,
Meaning
oh,
that if
oh.
we had another planet with a molten core that allowed the sun to discharge, would that mean that we would get a reduced effect, or the two planets in line would create an increased effect and a more unstable
I don't think it.
material or unstable universe? You know what I mean? When you think about
Yeah,
the
but
fact that
I
we
don't
haven't
think
hit
it's
a
like
lot
a.
of planets.
I don't think it's a build up like that. In
No,
other
I
words,
know
like a
you
build
know.
up like an avalanche. But I think it just shows how each planet and the sun kind of tickles each other. In other
They all have
words,
to kind of interact in a way.
right, right.
And if it's on
It
an
is.
electronic way, different size um, different size arrangements of planets versus their solar setup would cause different effects on each planet based on
I
their
mean,
setup.
they've
So,
they've
like
taken
the
pictures.
interior happenings of a hydrogen atom versus a helium atom versus an oxygen atom, they're going to change because the setup is different. The number of electrons and protons and quarks and things inside change. So, the setups of a planet in a universe. This is me being a
No,
nurse, but
I
my
don't.
mind
Yeah,
drew a
no,
picture.
I don't think atoms. The only time an atom changes like that is when it when it actually either decays or it's hit by something. In other
But
words,
the atom
most
is
most
affected by the
atoms,
charge and vibrates and moves at the frequency based on the charge of the
right,
nuclei.
right. But in other words, when you have there are atoms out there that are stable, and then there are atoms out there that are not stable, and the stability or instability is a direct result of the balance of charge in their cores. So, in other words,
Right.
if an atom had a few extra protons, then obviously it would be a little more positively charged. Do you see what I'm saying? It'd
Sorry,
be
I
the
had to run into
negative.
quantum mechanics a
Yeah,
little bit
but
there.
but but yeah, there is a electrical layer of everything that mainstream, in other words, mainstream is still looking for dark matter. They're saying that there's a form of energy that's missing out there, and they can't find it. Well, maybe it's right in front of their face. Maybe
Right.
what they're missing is dust and electricity.
In which case, you want to go back and see Numbed Wasteland episode 1 or 2 or both, just for fun. But I think that might be somewhere around the end of today's. Now that we've circled all the way through, I think we've hit all the topics, whether you believe it or not,
Have
whether you're with it or
yeah.
not.
Have we beat this dead horse enough?
I think this horse is if we poke it one more time, it's gonna start repeating things it's already said.
I know this much. It's not necessarily a bad idea to have a month's worth of freeze dried food. That's just kind of makes sense because hell, down here we have hurricanes. Up by you, they have snowstorms or maybe a power outage or anything.
Oh, by the
So
way, there's
uh,
oh damn, it's evening. The sun's going down. I've sat for too long. I'm starting to feel tired just from sitting. There's other things, stupid things that you have around your house every day that you may not normally think of. Maybe taking your kids' crayons and melting them down in a pot and dropping your cheese from the refrigerator in the pot and coating it in crayon wax and then setting it on the counter to dry. And your cheese in a couple of weeks will be ready to eat if you cut off the wax.
oh, in other words, sealing it that way so you don't have to
There's
use
stupid things
refrigeration.
like if you look into how do you survive should you lose power, lose refrigeration,
Right.
lose this, lose that. What are the first things you should do? And it's magnificent how many stupid things you don't think of that are right there.
Well, there's also a lot of things that we use and we really don't have to refrigerate. Like, I'm sure your family goes through a dozen eggs a week, right?
Yeah.
Well, you know that you don't have to put, you could leave eggs out in room temperature for a week and they don't go bad, right?
Right. However, you want to be careful about that. It's the treatment of the chemicals we use takes away a layer on the outside of the egg and makes it so that the egg's exposure to the environment makes it easier for the egg to collect different things. That's why when there's like a salmonella outbreak or around eggs or something, when they say the egg might have something, all of those eggs are no good because we bleach the outside of our eggs, which strips down a natural layer that's on the egg that prevents the egg from absorbing things, which is why you can take one of our eggs and stick it in vinegar and dissolve the eggshell.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I know
other
that
countries have
I
different restrictions. You don't have to refrigerate your eggs at all because they're not treated that way. We
right.
bleach and chemical treat the outside of our eggs to clean all the bacteria and stuff away. And in cleaning all of it, we clean the natural bacteria that protects the egg from absorbing things it's not supposed to.
Well, I still, I mean, I've left eggs out for days and cooked them and never gotten sick. But be that as it may, half and half doesn't go bad when it's not refrigerated. Butter doesn't go bad when it's not refrigerated because you use it. You use it, you know.
Um, be careful about that. Real butter, high salt butter doesn't go bad. The higher the cream content in your
Yeah,
butter, it
the
will
more
go
fat.
bad. If it's made with starch or oil, vegetable oil, it won't
Oh,
go
that's
bad.
margarine. That's not butter. That's
Well,
margarine.
no, there's different blends and mixes now.
Oh
You can get
no,
stuff that's
I love my
30%
land.
vegetable oil and
I
70% cream
I
and
love my Lando Lakes stick of butter.
yeah, and if it's got, I doesn't even have to have
The
a really
lightly
high salt
salted,
content at all.
the lightly salted Lando Lakes stick butter. I leave that shit out. I can actually, what I'll do is I'll throw that in a little sealed jar, like a Tupperware, and throw garlic in it and a pinch of what's that fish called? What's that fish? The salty fish on pizza?
Anchovy.
Anchovy paste. You take a little bit of anchovy paste, some garlic, and put it in butter. Put it in one of those small Rubbermaid containers. Let the whole thing go to room temperature. Mix it up. You got perfect garlic bread, butter ready to go at any time, and you can leave it there for I don't know how long. I've had them there for 10 days, and it was still good and buttered up my bread and made great grilled cheese, garlic cheese sandwiches, and it's good. It's good. It's good.
Good. Hey, welcome Death Hadouken to the chat. We are getting ready to head out. I was gonna say something, I forget what it was. It probably was kind of on.
Yeah, so I mean, we didn't
Oh, it
really
was on
talk
the
about.
food and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't really talk about. I mean, Agenda 21 is kind of like a title to the plan to basically kill us all and clean up the rest. And a lot of stuff is involved with that. So I hope we kind of touched, and we only did touch on some of the list. There's still plenty
Oh,
more.
I remember what I was gonna say. Also on the survival methods, did you know that a good way to make your food edible is if you have raw meat? Dig a hole in the ground, pour a bunch of salt in the hole, put your raw meat in the ground, pour a bunch of salt on top, and cover the hole.
Well, can we do that without digging a hole?
You can.
Can I use like a nice clean towel and throw salt on a nice clean towel and throw
No,
the meat on that
there's
and then
reasoning
throw?
behind this. There's a lot of reasoning behind this. One, if you dig the hole, the temperature underground remains more consistent.
Oh, right, right,
It's
right,
cooler than the surface. So in
right.
hotter
It
areas, you got to
stays
dig
right.
farther down. Okay?
It
This will
stays a
keep the
stable. Right,
food at a stable temperature. The
right,
salt dries out and kills any chemicals and prevents things from growing on the food. It'll
right.
prevent any infections or animals or anything from being able to get into the food, which is interesting. Not that I do this, though I've been tempted. Raw bacon is healthy to eat because the salt content in bacon is so high that nothing can grow on it.
It's too chewy. I had it when I was a kid, but I cook mine now.
Yeah, I cook mine too, even though I get a bacon that's really high in, well, not as high in salt, but it's a really good bacon, like one that you would actually eat if it was at room temperature, but I buy it frozen, so
Yeah,
we'll
raw
see.
bacon's too much like chewing gum.
Yeah, but raw bacon is edible because of the
Yeah.
salt content. Before we cooked our meat, we salted it. To store it, we salted
Yeah.
it. It
Yeah.
keeps
Yeah.
meat.
Yeah.
We know that.
Smoke,
So,
smoking it too. That's where barbecue really originally came from. They used to smoke their fish and meats.
yeah, and you can smoke it for, what, months. As long as it's sitting in that smoker, it's good.
Yep. Okay, boy.
Yeah, I
I
think it's
think
been an awesome show. We've been tangentized.
let's ask the chat. What topic would you like to hear next?
Give us something crazy to look at. If we've never heard of it, even better.
I keep on
Uh,
introducing things that Numbskull has never heard of. When I
you
talk to him
don't know
about
what you don't know.
Q,
How do you look for
right,
this if you've never heard of it?
QAnon, you hadn't a clue. Agenda 21, you hadn't a clue.
I'm wondering if there's something I can come up with that Data hasn't heard of.
Yeah, that'd be the day.
Uh,
So,
I
death,
was
anybody?
I was posed with an interesting question, and we can ponder on if no responses from the chat or in my messages or in Data's messages or our feeds or whatever, wherever, and however. Does one person's ability to hear out, acknowledge, accept, and learn from what they take in create a handicap for another individual who lacks the ability to do the same processing?
Interesting.
My neighbor
So,
posed this question to me, and my mind is just,
is
I'm
it a is
almost
it a
angry.
handy is it a handicapped if he doesn't have a skill that somebody else he's being compared to does?
Okay, so let's enlighten and be as general as I can, but I seemingly
Do you want to go
have
down this
developed an
path at
ability.
this time?
Well, for the next show, so I want to leave people on a
Oh,
cliffhanger.
okay.
I
Okay.
seemingly have developed an ability to learn anything and do anything I learn. Build whatever I see, create what I see, and the speed and aptitude at which I can do these, the more I do, the faster my aptitude to do things I've never done.
But isn't that normal?
It I think so. But when you continuously get many people around you that go, I can't do that. There's no way I could ever do that. There's no way I could do that. I'm not that good. I don't see what you see. I don't see it the way you see it. Did you build that from a diagram? No, I saw it in my head. What I wanted to see, I know how things are done. This is how I did it.
Maybe
And
you're more spatially oriented.
and he basically said, "Well, it's hard." The way he said it, which kind of what? Like slap in the face. He's like, "I'm sorry, you're just not impressing me. You've done so many seemingly impressive things in so many different fields that it doesn't impress me that you do impressive things." And I'm thinking to myself, well, that's a backhanded slap because this isn't impressive to me. This is just me thinking things out and doing them while
Right.
thinking them through.
Who says you were trying to impress him in the first place?
But the handicap comes in, whereas he not only lacks one or two abilities, and this isn't a negative, he has other abilities that I may
Right.
not have.
I mean, there are people that are all about numbers. They can do math in their head. There are people that are all about languages. They can just pick up languages as easy as you pick up a screwdriver.
Does that
Um,
aptitude create a handicap for
I don't
those
think.
around you?
Yeah, no,
And
I don't
now
think it does.
hold on. We're not going to get into it on today's show. We're going
Yeah.
to get
Okay.
into it after we hit that live button next Saturday night. But I want you
Right.
to think about that.
I'll think
because
about
I
that.
try to place myself in the perspective of other people, in their perspective. And there is
Right.
the constant lingering argument of the SJW culture where we should be willing to acknowledge that others experience and recognize their handicaps and acknowledge them and allow them the variance to proceed equal with us. Even though we may not perfectly agree, I do still try to acknowledge it. And I think to myself, does my aptitude, ability, I don't know what the fuck my IQ is, nor do I really care. Does my intelligence and aptitude and ability handicap those without what I have?
You know, it reminds me of something. I I do computer repair and servers and networks and stuff like that. And I had a client once, and I was trying to explain to him what I was doing with his computer. And at one point, he said, I really don't care. And I'm like, okay, I mean, I just wanted to show you so you have an understanding, so maybe you could do some of this yourself. And he's like, you know, it's like this. You are explaining to me how a clock works gear by gear. All I want is to tell the time.
You know what's weird? I want to know what time it is, but when the time stops telling me what time it is, I want to know why it stopped telling me. How did it
Right,
tell me in the
exactly.
first place, and how do
Exactly.
I make it tell me
And all
again?
I right, and all I was trying to do is explain to him, well, okay, maybe so. I'll gear after gear after gear, and there's a spring, and if you wind this spring, your clock will continue to work. So,
But let's go a little farther. I want to know, why do we use clocks, and how are they
right.
broken down, and why is it by 30 and 60 and not by 150, and why is it by 24 and not 23:59? And these are the
Why is it?
questions that this dumb, insignificant, tiny questions that lead to the stupid dilemmas that we're all talking about. That's what bothers me in my head. And with that, we
Why is
really
it a
have to.
7 day week?
Oh, wait, that's
It's
not the right
over.
one. That's not the one I meant to do. I don't mean to copy you, Igor. If you're watching my show, we're gonna do this one. That's better. It's the end of the day. Time to get gas.
Fill her up.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. If you didn't get a chance to watch the show, please watch it back. It was mildly interesting, hopefully mellow. Leave a comment. Let us know how you're enjoying it, where and how we can improve. There's buttons and things to hit somewhere on your way out.
Thank you for sharing your time, your Saturday night with us, and I hope to see you next week again.
Absolutely, everybody. Don't behave. Just get out. I forget where the button was. It's over here
Get
somewhere.
out.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.